Hey everybody, it's Austin. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are joined by Ava, our 3-year-old lab blue heeler mix. She is a rescue, so you're gonna see her on a leash all day today. Don't feel bad for her. She loves being on the leash. She loves being in her harness. She's gonna sniff all the ferns and sample all the streams to her heart's content. And she normally comes along on probably about a third of my photography trips. A lot of places here in the state dogs are not allowed, like national parks. And of course, dogs can cause a lot of damage to ecosystems if they're not on leash or if they're not properly controlled. So she is here today to join us. It's gonna be a blast, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not expecting any epic photos from today. It is 10:46 in the morning on a Friday, and the light is super harsh. There's not a cloud in the sky right now. The sun is poking through the trees right there. So we're dealing with dappled light, probably really harsh light. But that doesn't mean we can't go out and scout some locations and maybe still come away with a decent photo or two. So right over here, there's some streams. I think there are some waterfalls. I've actually never been out here before, but we're gonna go take a look around, get Ava a bit of adventure today, and maybe come away with a good image or two. But at the very least, we're gonna get to explore a local forest and maybe scout some locations for future photo shoots. With that, let's go hit the trail. Now, good girl. Not sure if you can hear that, but there's a very angry chipmunk up one of these trees right now. Doesn't want me here, and if I'm being honest, I'm not sure that this is where we want to be either. This trail has been a bit of a bust. We were following the creek for a little while, and then the trail basically never came down close to the water. It was always way up on this steep edge of the ravine, just no side trails, no way for me to get down. And so we follow the trail kind of around this corner, and I'm hoping that this leads us down to a small waterfall. We'll see. But man, is it narrow. Let me flip the camera around to show you. That trail's about a foot, maybe 1.5 feet wide. It is super overgrown, super wet. Poor Ava, she was getting a little bit too excited and uncomfortable with this single track hiking, so I had to put her gentle leader on. It doesn't hurt her, it's just gives me a bit more control, but man, this is turned into quite an arduous little hike here. Let's hope it pays off, at least with a location that we can come back to in the future. I thought you might want to see just how big some of the trees are out here. So there's Ava for scale, little 50-pound dog. And that is what we're talking about. Huge trees out here in the Quinalt Rainforest. Even the mushrooms are huge here. This is my hand. Super cool. Not the subject we're looking for though. Still, really cool. So there's Ava. There's a little side trail right here going back to the main trail. Some huge stumps. And just over here is our first subject for the day. Check out this guy. A huge stump, real pointy, with a nice little hole going through the middle of it, and these really big, mossy old roots. I can't imagine what this tree used to look like back in its glory days, but even the remnants of the tree are still really beautiful, and we're just tucked in here amongst all of this lichen. Really beautiful seeing all this on the trees above us. I think we're gonna try and get a really nice ultra wide shot here to pull in some of these other elements like the moss and the lichen while still letting us see the roots down here in the foreground. I'm not expecting it to come out as a particularly good shot today, but this is gold for when we get to come back here in the future, maybe with some frost or some snow. Gonna be really cool. So as we take this shot, I thought I would share with you what I brought with me today. Inside of my backpack, I have my Canon EOS R. It's an oldie, but a goodie, really solid full frame body. I have an RF 14-35, excellent ultra wide on a full frame body, and still a really solid landscape lens on a crop sensor body like my Canon EOS R7. And then I typically also carry this. This is the RF 100-400, really solid budget wildlife lens, and also a really good option on a body like this for a kind of telephoto landscape lens. I always have a microfiber cloth to keep stuff dry and to wipe not lenses down, but camera bodies and lens bodies, not necessarily the front of the lens. For that, I always carry a little lens pen and usually some very basic Zeiss alcohol wipes to use in very rare occasions. And then down here, I have a set of filters. These are circular magnetic filters that just snap on. They're made by KNF, not sponsored. I just really like these particular filters. And this set has a circular polarizer and I think 2 ND filters in here as well. I think maybe a 3-stop and a 6-stop or something like that. The bag that all this is in is the LowePro Powder BP 500 AW. It's actually a camera bag meant for snow sports, but I find that it works really well for my purposes. So I'm gonna get my camera out, set up the tripod, which I have over here on the side of the bag, and we're gonna get this reference shot. I think I found the composition for this. It's not perfect, but I think it's something we can work with and think about a little bit more before we come back here in the future. Basically, I'm gonna shoot high and angle down a little bit so I can pull in some of these ferns in the foreground so I can really accentuate the roots with all the moss on them, and so I can try and keep the stump looking nice and tall. But I do have to watch out for a couple things. First, our background, right? We have the sky. You can see it right up here actually behind me. We have really bright sky coming through here, and we have these 2 trees, one to the right of the stump and one directly behind it, that if we're not careful can become really distracting elements in the frame. So we do want to minimize how much space those take up in the frame, and ideally not have them like leading off to the sides or anything like that. A little bit is okay. You just gotta, keep an eye on it. So I'm gonna take this frame and I'll pop it up on the screen, and then we're gonna move on to the next shot. I might be a little crazy and this might not work out, but I actually think there might be an image here just right off the trail. It's a little abstract though. Let's walk through it. So right behind me, right here, is this really big, looks like a cedar to me, like a western red cedar. And then coming up out of the ground is just these branches from a tree that fell down long ago, and you've got moss coming off of those branches, and those branches are just leaning up against the tree right where they fell years ago. But there's actually a really interesting contrast between the red of the western red cedar and the green, the bright green of those moss-covered branches. Yeah, I think we're just gonna take a quick shot here. It's gonna be just really simple, really focused on the pattern of those branches and the contrast of the green against the red bark of the tree. Ava is being very patient while we wait for the light. She's tied off to my backpack. We are standing in the middle of the trail, unfortunately, so I'm gonna walk you through the composition super quick. We're gonna take the shot and we're gonna move on. Right now we've got some really nice soft light hitting these moss-covered branches right there. Of course, the red cedar with its nice red-colored bark. I am using a circular polarizer on the front of the lens, which you'll see in a minute. Really helps accentuate those colors. And I'm gonna make this a square crop. So we're gonna probably crop off the top about there, crop off the sides about there, and then crop out probably most of this foreground right there. 35 millimeters full frame is still a bit too zoomed out. 100 millimeters on my other lens is too zoomed in. So we're just gonna take this shot as is and see how it looks. We're at ISO 100, f14, and a 3.2 second timer. So cross your fingers, let's hope it comes out. That composition came out of nowhere. I was just walking down the trail and looked off to my side, and the green against the red just really caught my eye, and the just web of branches up against that western red cedar. So I think that just is a reminder for all of us, myself included, that we really do just need to keep our eyes open and, you know, let the images come to you sometimes. I'm gonna keep working my way down this trail. I'm hoping that since we're headed downhill, that we might be going to a stream crossing or back towards the water, somewhere where I can get some long exposures done, or maybe find some compositions for the future when the creek is frozen. But even if that is the only image I get, I think that I'm happy with it. I haven't seen the edited version, you have, so let me know down in the comments what you thought. I feel like I keep talking about how big the trees are, but Ava's gonna help out and model for scale of just how big some of these trees are. There she is, being a real good pup. And there is the tree, just huge. Probably like 100, 150 feet tall, all the way up there. Man. And there is a very good pooch. Ava, come. Good girl, good girl. She has definitely earned some treats when we get home. Okay, so we have reached a fork in the trail. We are here, as it says, and we got a choice. We can go this way, south, down towards these other trails that kind of go along this stream. Maybe we could get lucky and get close to the water. It does look like it gets close in a couple places. Or we can go over here to Cascade Falls and maybe be able to get something there. So I think we're gonna do that first, and then maybe on the way back, come back and do a quick side visit out here if we have time, because then we got to either hike down to the road and walk along the road all the way out here, or we need to go and hike all the way back up here, all the way through the really narrow section of trail and back here to where we parked. So Cascade Falls it is. Let's see what we can get. Well, we found it, but you probably can't hear me. All you need to know is that Ava is very, very happy to be able to play in the water and get a nice, cool drink. What do you know? We actually found a waterfall. That image was taken at f/16, ISO 50, and just under a second of shutter speed. And that actually worked out perfect. I didn't blow my highlights with how aerated that water is. And I still got that kind of nice curtainy look, at least the look that I was going for. If you had slower moving water, say you were in a stream and not in the waterfall, then you might want to use something a little bit longer in terms of your shutter speed, like a second or a second and a half, or you could really drag it out to like 3 or 4 or more seconds and get that kind of cloudy, ethereal look that a lot of people seem to like these days. Kind of, I don't know, modern or fine art-ish. But that said, I actually haven't seen the final edited version of that photo like you did just a few seconds ago, and that's because that's how this channel works. I take photos today, and that's this week's video, and then I wait and I go home and I don't edit them. I basically wait until next week's video to edit them with the idea that you can tune in next week and see exactly how that image was made. I then take the edited image from next week and I put it into this week's video before publishing it. The whole point is I actually try to have that editing process be pretty collaborative. So that way, if you have feedback down in the comments, I take those into account for the next time that I do a video like that. So if you want to see how that image was edited, then make sure to tune in next week. Otherwise, if you have comments about what you saw, then feel free to leave them down below. Ava and I are both, frankly, totally just beat. This has been a good walk, but a long one, and we are both really hungry, and we still have about a 2-hour drive home. So we're gonna turn around, head back to the car, still a few miles away from the car, and maybe grab some food on the way home. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you next time.